Labguy here. Good evening. Before we get started, I'd like to welcome all the new subscribers. The rate of subscription has been going up. We're getting 3 or 4 per day, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate everybody who enjoys watching this channel, and I thank you for your visit. If you see anything you like, anytime you see it and you like it, just leave a cliche. So, this is the weekly update report for Sunday, January 31st, 2021. And there is a lot of news, and we'll have some video for you to show the various things that I've been working on. There are multiple fronts that I've been working on. The amateur television hobby of mine, you're aware that the antenna was knocked down by a windstorm last week, and that is still currently down. Nothing to report there. I spent the day with one of the owners of our local amateur television repeater today. We went to the top of Mount Loma Prieta, which is to the southwest of San Jose, California, up about 3,850 feet to work on our repeater, which is suffering degradations due to high moisture in that concrete blockhouse that we rent to house our repeater equipment. That was an enjoyable day. I spent the day with W2NYC on location, and that was Ben. And Joe, WB6RIY, was joining us by video conference and phone call, working on our live video interface to the British Amateur Television Club, batc.org, on Wednesday nights at 8:30. When all that is working, you can watch us on the internet, and that's 8:30 p.m. Wednesday nights, Pacific Standard Time, California time. So moving on, I bought a new 3D printer to support the projects that I work on. There are many times I need to build supports to hold vacuum tubes and optics and various things, all the things that one uses a 3D printer to do. And so I purchased the Creality Ender 5 Pro. It only cost me $343 shipped. It went together quickly, and it performed immediately. Of course, there's some calibration that's required, and I'm about halfway there. A firmware upgrade is in order, and a friend of mine is working on those details for me and with me, and when we have something to show about that process, we'll do it. I don't want this to become a 3D printer channel. There are a dozen absolutely excellent 3D printer channels on YouTube at a minimum. So, as I said, I set the printer up and I went through calibrations and printed the first test print, which was an included little dog model. And as you can see, this came out gorgeous. The surface is beautiful. Now, I've had people warn me that these little models that they include with your printer are optimized for first-time printing, and they're not necessarily indicative of precision printing, but when you're printing little figurines, who cares if it's off by a tenth of a millimeter? I mean, big deal, right? So at least it demonstrated that the machine operates. So the next stage, of course, is calibrating your nozzle filament feed rate so that the number of steps per rotation of the extruder motor, when you tell it to push 100 millimeters of filament through the hot end to print something, that it actually feeds 100 millimeters, not 90, not 150. So that you get a good proper amount of flow. And then when that's set, the next thing you do is you print a calibration cube. This is a 10 by 10 by, no, it's 20 by 20 by 20 millimeters. And the Z-axis is the one that needs the most calibration, and it's off by less than 1%, something like 0.87%. So it's very good. And again, we have good surfaces. For the money, I have no complaints about this printer. It's easily 1/4 the cost of the previous printer I was using, and has already demonstrated a much higher reliability at functioning. Though, of course, the older printer was designed for grade school classrooms and ease of use. So what that costs you, of course, is a lot less control over things. So when it had errors, rather than letting you correct them or suggesting corrections, it did like a VCR would do and would just refuse to operate. This became too frustrating, and so I replaced it with the Creality Ender 5 Pro. I can highly recommend this printer for beginners. Even though it's my third 3D printer, I still consider myself a beginner in this craft. So having reached that stage, we're working on the Desector Cam project, NBTV Dissector Cam. And so as you know, I explained in the last video, I'm building an enclosure around this tube that will be 3D printed. Inevitably, it will be a single component, but for now, I'm building it in pieces. And so the first thing was to fit to this ring, make sure the inside diameter, the outside diameter. So rather than print this entire stack, I printed a short piece and with mounting holes, and it fits. I did goof a little bit. I made the you may be able to see there are 3 holes in this, mounting holes at 120 degrees from each other, which it is 120 degrees from each other. I got that right. And unfortunately, the mounting holes on this tube, looking end on, down here, here, and here, if you look at them, they're not 120 degrees. These two down here are at some other angle. So I will get back to you on that. But that's why I print short, quick test parts to see, you know, when I have a number of dimensions. I had the inside diameter, the outside diameter, and the location of these screw holes and the diameter of the screw holes to confirm. I got the diameter good too. I used a setting of 3.4 millimeters, and this results in a hole that can be tapped into by a stainless steel number 632 American thread screw, so that I don't have to fuss about too much to make mounts. They make metal mounts you can insert in these things, and you can get as fancy as you want, but I want to build a camera, you know, and not spend my life becoming the world's greatest 3D printing guru. We're going to find good middle ground, and we're going to make all of this work together. So that is the state of the Desector Cam project at this moment. So we're on track. Things are moving. When I have the camera tube mechanically mounted, we will then go into the electronics, which, if you recall, the NBTV CRT televisor, that it will be very similar to that, only everything will be working the other way. It will have magnetic deflection instead of a static deflection, and it will pick up pictures rather than display pictures. So that's the fundamental difference, and that's where we're headed. And this project, being a camera, it takes a little longer to make those work than the others. So that sums up the report for the NBTV series. So moving on, we have the Craig 6104. It's a 1965 vintage television camera that was made for industrial and educational television recording in 1965 on old reel-to-reel tape recorders. And I never showed you the camera because I had, like a fool, I had taken it all apart to begin the reverse engineering. I do not have service data for this camera. So this is your first look at it reassembled. I was in the process of taking out the boards and scanning the backside of the board, creating a graphic of it that I could use to inevitably trace out the schematic, which is underway, and print out these worksheets onto which I would transfer the component locations by eye, looking at the circuit board itself, and that process is also underway. But in the order of things, as these things go, I pulled out the camera tube, which is called a Vidicon tube. And this one happens to be a 20 PE 11. No, yes, a 20 PE 11, 20 PE 11 tube, which is a very early 2/3 inch diameter Vidicon tube. It has a little reference stripe here for either the bottom or top edge of the image. You line that up to square your picture, but that's neither here nor there in this case, as this tube, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, the getter has turned white, meaning this tube is broken. There's air inside it. It will not work. So I have hundreds of Vidicon tubes and not a single one of these. Well, not a single one of these that's not inside of a camera. Here at Labguy's World, we don't rob Peter to pay Paul, so I'm not going to scrap a camera to restore a camera. So I went on eBay and I've ordered 2 more 20 PE 11s. They're used, so we'll cross our fingers and hope they work when they get here. And that pretty much summarizes the state of the Craig 6104 camera project. And that also brings us pretty much to the end of the weekly update this week. I hope you enjoyed seeing how this is going and seeing where it's going. And I wanted to confirm with you that these projects are on track and will be moving along. It's not usual for me to work on multiple projects simultaneously, but since each one has its own issues and stuff in the mail, let's call it, it's always a delay of some sort. It helps to have 2 or 3 projects so that I can pick and choose which one to work on at any given moment, whichever one can move the project forward. So with that, we'll say this is the end of the this week's updates for you. Thank you for watching my videos. Once again, welcome to all the new subscribers, and hello to all the old subscribers. To all the old subscribers out there who said I would never remember them in my will. Hello, old subscribers. So this is Labguy out.